Episode 18, Uncle the Private Tutor. Henry Henderson announces to the students that their midterm exams will be in 2 weeks. He says the top 2 students in each subject will receive a Stella Star, while students who fail an exam will receive a Tonatrus Bolt for each failed one. Henry proceeds to return their history quizzes from the day prior and is disappointed to show Anya her 13% mark and tells her to stay after class for remedial lessons. Meanwhile, Damien got 91%, which he brags to Anya about, to her irritation. In her remedial class, Anya realizes she should read Damien's mind when taking history quizzes and tests next time, and begins laughing to herself, upsetting Henry, who gives her extra homework. On the bus ride home, Anya notices the full moon and starts panicking. Rushing home, Anya asks Lloyd what phase the moon will be in 2 weeks, to which he replies, "The new moon." Anya is shocked by this, as her power will not work on the day of a new moon due to her weakness known as eclipsing, meaning she will be unable to cheat during the exam. Anya attempts to get Bond to show her the test questions from the future, but instead sees her dinner for the night. Distracted, Anya forgets about her worries for the rest of the night, then wakes up anxious the next day, realizing she has not studied yet. Lloyd attempts to help her study, but he ultimately makes no progress, as Anya is not able to concentrate with his mind being so talkative. Yor then remembers that Yuri offered to help Anya study, so they call him up. Yuri arrives seconds later and is introduced to his niece. Anya attempts to read his mind, and is overwhelmed by his thoughts about Yor. While Lloyd and Yuri chat about the recent peace talks, Anya reads their minds and is excited over their secret identities. Lloyd takes his leave to do some errands, but not before telling Anya that she and Yuri should get to studying. Yuri starts by giving her difficult problems to solve, which Anya does by reading his mind and surprising him and Yor. Yuri asks why Anya even needs to study, who, after remembering her eclipsing, tells Yuri it was dumb luck, which he hesitantly accepts. They try studying again, but Yuri gets upset after realizing she is not that bright. However, when Yor asks Yuri for help and Anya exaggerates her love for her, Yuri begins being kinder with his critiquing. The two continue studying, but after hitting some roadblocks, Yuri questions if Anya likes to study. Anya questions him right back after saying she hates it, to which he replies that he studied hard so that he could take care of Yor. Yuri explains to Anya that knowledge is power and she can be or do anything she wants if she studies. Anya gets confused when Yuri tells her studying applies to the whole enchilada, mishearing it as a swole chihuahua. Despite that, she gets very excited about the concept of studying, and the two intensely continue their work. After an exhausting study session, Yuri questions whether Anya has mastered grammar yet, to which Anya asks what that is. Feeling that he just wasted his time, Yuri angrily storms out of the house. While making his exit, Yuri realizes that he is the one who should be studying and that he does not have enough power. Yuri believes that if he had more knowledge, he could have captured Twilight during the terrorist incident and is still powerless to protect his sister or country. However, he returns inside for a brief moment to eat all of the snacks Yor just made, once again screaming at how good it is while eating and throwing it up. Anya contemplates the idea that if she had been smarter, she might have been able to disarm the bomb herself during the terrorist incident. She decides to go to her room to study her workbook. When Lloyd returns home, Yor tells him how hard Anya has been studying. After picking up a workbook Anya was working on, he discovers it is a subject that is not one of her midterm subjects. Dumbfounded, Lloyd chuckles to himself and thinks that Operation Strix may very well be doomed. 2 weeks later, the students at Eden Academy sit down in the exam hall and prepare to take their exams. Anya gives Becky a statement of confidence which Becky does not understand, and Henry commences their midterm exams. Daybreak. After the exams, 3 professors wheel the midterms down a hall to the vault in 2 boxes. They chat about how it seemed the first-year students had performed poorly before locking the tests in the vault. Twilight goes to Eden Academy, worried that Anya has failed her exams. His goal is to alter Anya's answers before they start grading the tests to prevent her from getting tonitruses. Twilight disguises himself as Mr. Veman, an Eden Academy professor, and begins his infiltration. On his way to the vault, he spots a suspicious man heading in the same direction. The man is a spy going by the name Daybreak and is a self-proclaimed rival of Twilight. His mission is also to try to break into the vault. Hired for this job as his first real mission, Daybreak displays a lack of concern when carrying it out. Daybreak moves towards the hall where the vault is but almost gets caught by some security guards. However, he hides by holding himself horizontally high off the ground on a signpost. He continues to the building but finds that the door is locked. Instead of trying to pick the lock like Twilight was planning to do, Daybreak blatantly breaks a window on the door and unlocks it from the inside, shocking Twilight. Not wanting unwanted attention, Twilight then plants a soccer ball by the door to make it look like an accident caused by the soccer team. At the hall, Daybreak tries to pretend to be an information sciences professor, but has no ID prepared to prove his identity to the guard. Twilight intervenes to give him the fake ID of an information sciences professor. While handing him the ID, he is bewildered that Daybreak wrote down his mission details in his hand. The orders are to change the Desmond brothers test answers, and Twilight suspects that Donovan Desmond hired Daybreak for the same goal as him. After gaining access to the vault, Daybreak attempts to enter the passcode but fails. He pretends to leave and lets Twilight do it in his stead. After opening the vault, Twilight is clumsily knocked to the ground and dragged inside the vault, where Daybreak proceeds to alter Damien and Demetrius Desmond's test scores and decides to gain exposure by signing his name on the tests. A shocked Twilight jumps up, shouting that spies are not supposed to leave a trace. Realizing that he blew his cover, he quickly tries to cover up for his mistake. However, Daybreak, wanting to gain exposure, insists that Twilight tell everyone about him without telling anyone about what he did. After Daybreak rolls away, Twilight checks the tests and discovers that Daybreak changed the answers to give the brothers failing scores and was hired by a rival of the Desmonds. Needing their success for his mission to continue, Twilight reverts the changes. Afterward, he checks Anya's tests and is surprised by what he sees. 5 days later, the midterm scores are posted in the quad. Damien and his gang look for his placement and find him in 11th place in the class. Not only that, but Damien also placed in the top 2 for history with a score of 94, earning him a Stella Star. Meanwhile, Becky finds herself next at 46th place and looks for Anya's score. Becky finds Anya placed 213th out of 228 students, and Damien makes an attempt at consoling her, but fails because Anya is satisfied with her results as she read Lloyd's mind beforehand and got no tonitrus bolts by barely passing her tests. Despite Anya being proud of this, Lloyd decides that he will need to be stricter about her studies. Nevertheless, he is surprised Anya did not fail a single test, considering it impressive by her standards, and thinks about how she barely managed to keep Operation Strix alive. Reading his mind, Anya gives him a smug smile. In response, Lloyd tells her to think about her grades, and they will see if she will be smirking after their studying session, to her shock. Meanwhile, Daybreak gets a call saying that he failed his mission and is promptly fired, to his dismay.